let's get to the defense here and start with the edge rushers. The two names that are on our first team aren't going to surprise anybody, and that's Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett.
Right. The edge rushing position, much like the wide receiver position, is a place where I really love our SumerSports because they do an excellent job of breaking down exactly what the player is doing to get pressure. And I think that's a really key thing to kind of separate that you won't necessarily get in the pressure numbers or you won't get in the sack numbers. Micah Parsons right now is the best pass rusher that we have on record. Micah Parsons right now is the best pass rusher in the league. Micah Parsons is incredible. He alone, only as a pass rusher, is like playing at a defensive player of the year level. The question is as the season goes on, will they even have to use him as kind of an all-world type guy, which Myles Garrett has had to be? The question is like that line is very deep. They basically outlaid him only as a pass rusher for the most part. He hasn't played a ton of run snaps as compared to some of these other guys. And as a result, he's just been able to tee off on quarterbacks, which is what he does the best. And he is doing it at a rate that is sick. On the flip side, Myles Garrett is a top 10 player in pass rushing. He's like a top 5 player in pass rushing. He's the top 5 player in run defense as well. He is a defense in and of himself. And you're going to hear a lot of other Cleveland Browns names, which is a true credit to them. But you do have to wonder how much of that is because teams are having to devote 2 and 3 guys to Myles Garrett.
100%. Just an incredibly good player. Two guys there. Would you say, without getting into the rest of the list, so you don't have to, we haven't seen all of the names yet, but just off the top of your head, and don't say the name, would those be your top 2 guys in the Defensive Player of the Year voting right now? Or is there someone yet to come that you would put into the conversation?
I think Myles Garrett would be my vote for Defensive Player of the Year this year, followed by Micah Parsons.
Okay, fair enough. And then there's some very good edge rushers that are on the second team. That's Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson.
Right. Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson are baby versions of what Myles Garrett is right now. They are both making immense impacts in the pass rushing game. Aiden Hutchinson in particular is like in a tier above of everyone else in pass rushing right now. And Will Anderson has been a do-it-all guy as well. And it's great to see these young guys start to come and be the players that who they were drafted to be. It's really exciting to see them really live up to it. There's a lot of good edge rushers. There's a lot of good guys who just missed this list, Lindsay.
There really are. And at the defensive tackle position, there are some big names there as well. Chris Jones, who just lives on this list. Like, just go ahead and, put that name in ink, and then we'll work around it and add some names around it. And this year, the name around it is Malik Collins from the Browns as well.
Right. Malik Collins was let go by the San Francisco 49ers. He joins a Browns team which had drafted Mason Graham as well. And you wonder, you hope that he can kind of just fit in and play well. He has played excellently. Now, again, how much is that entangled with Myles Garrett? It's very difficult to say. But for what he was asked to do, he is doing it at an extremely high level in both pass rushing and in run defense. He's one of the only players that really stood out in both of those roles. Typically with defensive tackles, we see them played, a first and second down guy or a third and fourth down guy, especially given the success of the Browns defense. It's excellent to see Malik Collins start to carve out a great role where he is really having an impact on both sides of what he's asked to do.
On the second team here, we've got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, a couple of Philadelphia guys. By the way, these are the first Philadelphia guys we've mentioned so far, right?
These are the first Philadelphia guys who we have mentioned. It's a
Very
stunning indictment of their offense.
Very much so. Yeah. Okay. So tell me more about these two.
So I wish I could say that both of these players were, single role guys who were playing off of each other. Jalen Carter's the pass rusher and Jordan Davis is the run stuffer. That's not been the case. They've been all world. They have been the center of a Vic Fangio defense that has kept the Eagles afloat. And they have been the center of a special teams unit that have kept the Philadelphia Eagles afloat. We saw it twice in the Rams game where they're lined up on a guard. They clearly have his number. They bowl him over and get a block. And in Jordan Davis's case, which isn't a big part of this as well, he scores a touchdown. But Jordan Davis has put up basically all blue chip level Sumer scores in run defense this year, alongside causing a lot of ruckus in the past, which we have not seen in prior years. And Jalen Carter, spitting notwithstanding, has also put up blue chip grades in every game in terms of pass rushing and not shabby run defense as well. If these two players continue playing like this, which frankly it looks like they're going to continue, it's just a game changer for the Philadelphia Eagles. And much like we discussed their offensive line, which has been pretty banged up throughout the season, even though we've seen a lot of guys play through it, now the defensive line is the thing that just makes them unbeatable.
What about Quinnen Williams? How does he fit into all of this?
So we've seen Quinnen Williams do really good in the run game in particular, but the defense just hasn't been that great. And we also haven't seen him be an immense factor in the pass game. That's why I gave Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis the nod here, because they were a little bit more, fully based. SumerScore gave them the nod when it came to that as well. But their defense is also just better. So I really want to see Quinnen Williams cause more issues in the pass game as well.
All right, I've got another name that I'm curious about, who had a very good year last year in Philadelphia, and really popped in terms of SumerScore. We talked about him a lot in the offseason. Then he went to New England and he got paid, and his name seems to be coming up quite frequently. Where does Milton Williams fit into all of this?
In week 1, Milton Williams made his money, baby. He was a true Pro Bowl level performer. Since then, we've seen him be a little bit more shaky. He's had 2 quality starts in week 2 and week 4 rushing the passer, which is kind of his bread and butter. That is what he was brought to do alongside Christian Barmore. And then we've seen 1 kind of backup level game. The real thing that I want to hone in on, though, is his run defense. We have not seen that translate from an Eagles uniform to a Patriots uniform. That was the real question, because of the infrastructure that we kind of discussed with that Philly defense. Is if he could perform to that level, he would have to be as a true run stuffer as well. We just have not seen that yet from Milton Williams. However, you can straighten it out and put both together. I think he can have an excellent season.
Yeah. And again, that's worth circling back and just stating again, and we say it every single time, but there is context that's necessary with all of these things, because it's impossible in a lot of ways to pull an individual player's performance out of their environment. They just are in that environment. So all we can do is evaluate what they're doing, that they're asked to do. Exactly. In the situations that they're in. So there are still question marks that come out of that. We're not necessarily telling you who the best players are. We're telling you who is playing the best. Does that make sense? As a distinction?
Right. And I think the true goal, the true vision of SumerSports when it comes down to it, is to break down the walls between what is predictive and descriptive. But that's also the fun of football, the idea that we can plug and play Milton Williams and it's just going to be great is not exactly a fun thing to watch. Sure, it'd be fun. It'd be like Pac-Man, I guess, where you're just moving around and trying to pick up the stuff and the ghosts are coming at you. But it's a lot more fun when there's 25 different variables and a new head coach and a new defensive coordinator, a new system, and guys are coming in and out of the game. So we're trying to get to a better level of description observation, which our AI team and SumerScores are helping us do, while also being able to maintain a level of predictivity so that we can make better decisions.
And since we're talking about the Eagles and taking him out of the defense and coming off of a couple of second-team defensive tackles that are on the Eagles, let's pivot to linebacker, where we have a couple of Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles linebackers have been incredible. We have seen Zach Bond be able to continue to play in Vic Fangio's defense to the level that we saw. He has put together all pro performances to match what he did last year. Bond and the second member of this top team, his teammate and rookie Jahad Campbell, are the only 2 players to register blue chip coverage and pass rush SumerScores. And by the way, they are actually used in the pass rush. These aren't just random blitzes. They are used as pass rushers. They're the only 2 players to register 3 of 4 games with blue chip pass rushing and coverage SumerScores, alongside being pretty good in the run game as well. It is difficult to move the ball in the middle of the field against the Philadelphia Eagles right now. They basically have 4 guys playing at an all-pro level.
Carson Schlesinger. That is very hard for me to say for some reason, from the Cleveland Browns. And then Fred Warner, who again is, in bold ink marker
Right.
somewhere on this list always.
Right. It's very interesting to see Carson Schlesinger on here. And I
Yeah.
think also if he would have played enough and we probably would have seen Quinshaw Junkins on here as well. It was very interesting when the Browns took both of them very highly above expectation because the Browns are so analytically locked in, but they clearly saw something in the numbers, which to our case, we thought Schlesinger was a pretty good player at UCLA as well. That was going to make a lot of sense in the context of Myles Garrett and some of these other players. And that is basically what we have seen from Carson Schlesinger. He has specialized in stopping the run 4 straight premium starts, which basically means, it's not just an above average game. Like he's solidly a good player in this league when it comes to stopping the run. And he also has had several quality starts in coverage as well. You start to line those up over the course of an 18-game season, and you can be a really, really good player in this league. We're not seeing quite the blue chip stuff that would get him on the first team with Bond and Campbell, but he has maintained a level of consistency, a level of quality consistency that we don't really see from anyone else other than Fred Warner, who has been doing it for years at this point.
You've got my wheels turning there, what you mentioned about the Browns and taking a running back and a linebacker high in the draft. And the relationship between them being an analytically sound team and the Lions and what they did a few years ago. And they're a front office that I would also describe that way. And remember when they took Gibbs? They went
Right.
running back, linebacker also. We might need to revisit that come draft time.
Well, I think there's structural elements to it. And the first is surplus value. Now, noted, the Browns in particular did not take either of these players in the first round. They took Mason Graham, a premium position that we've seen get paid more and more and more over the last couple of years. But when you have answers or have no good way to get an answer. So in particular, the quarterback position, they figured that they could wait, and they basically hit on, 2 of the top 10 consensus rated, 2 of the top 5 consensus rated quarterbacks in the 3rd and 5th round. They clearly had kind of measured out availability, which is kind of the cousin of the true like economics, surplus value level stuff. It's like availability. If you think Carson Schlesinger is going to be really, really good and he's not going to be available in the 3rd round, but you think this pool of very premium players, which the edge rushing position was very premium. There was a lot of them. Offensive linemen, very premium, but they were all over the draft this year. Those were the 2 strengths of the draft. Then I think it does make sense to go with the Carson Schlesinger, Quinshaw Junkins. I do kind of push back on the Judkins one in particular, given our discussions of Jacory Krosky-Merritt. We saw Brashard Smith play this week for the Eagles, have a big catch. We've seen a couple of other guys, but he's performing at a really high level, and he's keeping them competitive at games. So who am I to criticize?
Moving on to our top players in Sumer score on the defensive side of the ball. Let's go into the defensive backfield now and take a look at the cornerbacks.
Right. So you start off with Charvarius Ward, who has just been immensely consistent in coverage, and he has been pretty good in run defense as well, which we're not necessarily asking of cornerbacks, but it'll push you up into the first team of Sumer scores. I mean, unique scenario, tough family stuff going on. He wants to leave San Francisco as a result. They figure out a deal. He ends up in Indianapolis. So it's great to see him kind of jump back up to the level of Pro Bowl All-Pro play that we saw from him in previous years. The second one is really interesting. Tyson Campbell. You think about the Jacksonville Jaguars, a little overlooked this season. They're sitting here with a pretty good record. Liam Cohen's first year. The kind of unknown reason why that is because their pass defense has been excellent. They're a top 5 rated pass defense according to expected points added per play. And Tyson Campbell has been immensely consistent. He has been highly targeted, but has a negative completion percentage over expected when targeted. And he has basically sat outside on the outside guarding the best players. He's had a couple up and down games in terms of, penalties. But when you look at a play-by-play basis, he has been one of the best players, and he has been a key cog in a defense that is extremely overlooked right now. That's why he gets this highlight, and that's why SumerScore is showing that he likely will be a core contributor to this defense moving forward.
We've got another Jacksonville Jaguar and the slot cornerback conversation here in Jordan Lewis.
Right. And Jordan Lewis has been incredible. He has put up all pro level games at the slot corner position, and he is another core reason that, you mentioned some of these names. These are kind of grab baggy names. Like, you may not know who Tyson Campbell is or Jordan Lewis is, but then when you look at what they're actually doing as a team, as a unit, it makes a lot of sense.
They're an interesting defense in that they have had really good turnover luck so far.
That is correct.
And I know that people will say, well, you create your own luck and all that kind of stuff and like play aggressively and go get the ball and all that kind of, but it's like 5 fumbles, 4 of which have been recovered. That's a very high rate that you would expect to regress as the season goes on. In terms of interceptions, 9 interceptions. It's like, you can't predict that a quarterback is going to throw an interceptable ball that frequently. And so we would imagine that some of these things are going to regress to the means. But what do you think is a fair takeaway from the fact that they have so many turnovers that descriptively does give them credit as a defense?
Right. I mean, you don't want to discount turnovers when we're talking descriptively because they are game changers. A second team member of the cornerback position is Isaiah Rodgers, who had probably one of the best turnover games in the history of the National Football League at the cornerback position. The thing is, you just can't count on them moving forward. And moreover, as you're talking about cornerbacks and slot corners and to a certain degree safeties who are asked to be in the run game a little bit more, so they're kind of more like linebackers, but in particular these outside corners, the maximum targets that we've really seen so far this year is like in the 20s. And so there's just not like an excellent stabilization to this yet. And so the players who are able to generate turnovers or the players who are able to make plays typically will pop up early in the season. And I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing with these Jaguars players.
That's a really good point. At what point in the season do you think we have enough snaps where that stabilizes? And the absolute, like the names that you would expect to see probably are the ones that pop up here.
Yeah, I'd really like to revisit this probably between week 6 and week 8. I think once you start getting to midseason, you start to see those snap totals double. And like we're getting towards, 100 targets potentially. You're getting like well into the hundreds in terms of routes run against or coverage snaps. That's when we start to understand the guys who are actually just not being targeted because people are scared of them. It takes kind of that much time to get it together.
All right. Last position for the defense before we wrap up the players and we turn to a team conversation, and that is the safety position. No surprise that Derwin James is there. That Chargers defense, just in general, actually, I'm surprised that maybe we haven't seen more Chargers names pop up. They've been playing so well, but Derwin is one that I would expect to see, and then Antoine Winfield at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Derwin James has had 2 blue chip coverage games and 2 blue chip run defense games. He's a true kind of jack of all trades. You can consider him a linebacker. You can consider him a safety. He lines up basically a defensive end a lot of the time. Like, we've seen the true Derwin James, Jim Harbaugh, like love baby kind of come out this year because he's moving all over the field and he's causing like all kinds of problems, and it's showing up in our SumerScores. On the other side, Winfield just continues to rack up quality starts. These are 2 guys who have been doing it for years. They will continue to do it. He has not had a bad game really across passing or run defense at all. Going on to the second team is Eric Murray from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Similar discussion. A lot of quality starts, both from run defense and in the passing game. But will that continue? We will have to see. And then another interesting one, Cameron Curl from the Los Angeles Rams, paired with our second team slot cornerback, Quentin Lake. Lindsay, it seems like Les Snead has done it, and he's turned over this entire defense to young players. And now we add in Curl and we add in Lake and we add in some of these other guys with Fisk and Verse. And it seems like now this defense is just a young kind of wrecking machine.